Okay, we're live and the bidding just started. Go ahead and blast the Discord. Make sure everybody knows that we're well, that was the quickest bidding I have seen. Let's get ready to talk about this. This is quick. Didn't even finish posting in the tournament that it was started. So give me just a second here. That was quick. One second. All right, remove the embed. And we're good to go. Yeah, everything. This is a straight up game, guys. This is pretty crazy. Get these bids in the Discord under the scores. Round 3, Group I. We're going to get them on the screen as well. Looks like they are still hanging out in the lobby, getting ready to start. So that gives us just a minute. Get these scores on the screen. Yes, that was 0 on everything but Rustfiat Agricultural. So let's talk about these bids for a second. While we're waiting to start the game, we had Polanyi Engineering, which is far and away the worst choice, right? Get the tier list out. We've got Rustfiat Agricultural, which ranks in as an A. Saxony Industrial, which is also an A. Polanyi Engineering, which is the odd man out at C, and Crimea Mechanical at S, also at 0. So let's see if they've got this game started yet. Looks like they're still waiting to queue up the room here. Polanyi Ag misclicked law. Polanyi Engineering. What I have. Oh, they misclicked in the room, I guess. So they're having to reset the room. Yeah, this is Rustfiat loses a coin at the end of this bidding phase, but that's it. That is it. So Polanyi Engineering could be an early target for Saxony, right? Because you're talking about a board that, unless you build buildings, is going to struggle with power unless you build buildings or get power off the encounters. So Saxony can look to Polania early if Polania gets off the island to provide it with combats. Rustviet, if Rustviet plays conservatively, is going to be hard to reach for Saxony early to get combats, because that's what Saxony needs. Industrial is unlikely, anything is possible, but industrial is unlikely to keep up with Crimea or Rustviet's coin production as the game goes longer. So if this game goes 12 rounds, that probably means Saxony won. If this game goes 14, 15 rounds, there's a good chance Crimea wins. And anything longer than it, it's what Rustviet is going to want to see. None. To be honest, anyone can win this match, although Russ and Polania are at a slight disadvantage, but not my match. I think it's an uphill battle in a pretty major way for Polania, to be honest. And you've got... I want to see what Polania Engineering does, because it's a combination, to be honest, I don't really like that much. Yeah, you can get lucky on encounters. Polania gets lucky enough on encounters and beat almost anything, almost any time. So maybe that's what we'll see. But boy, you're taking your life into your hands there. Hey, you're going second. Mods is resetting final bid. Continuing from there? What does that mean? Is there a problem with the bid? See what happened here. What then? Discord. All right, it sounds like there was a misclick on the bid, which might explain why that went so quickly. No, it doesn't sound like they meant to click Polania. Okay. I think that's right. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna get Discord on the screen for you guys. Give me just a second so you can see the bidding. We're gonna take these bids off the screen because these are apparently not the bids. In just a minute. All right, it's going to be at the bottom. There's not a lot I can do that I'm aware of where I can actually all right. We got 1 on Crimea Mechanical, 1 on Rustviet Agricultural. Crimea Mechanical goes up to 2 with Rustviet Agricultural on 1. I hope you guys can read it in the bottom left. None, you probably Probably can't on your phone, but I don't think I can make it much bigger. If you guys know how I can make it bigger, I'm all ears. I tried using the magnifier last time and it wasn't good. Maybe we can. No, that's not. Okay. Kyra added 1 to Crimea Mechanical, so we're at 2, 0 on Sachs, and 1 on Rustviet Agricultural. Let's get the bid window minimized. All right. Norman's turn. He was the one who misclicked on Polania, so they're going to let him go back and take that back. Crimea is going last. Yes, it is. It is. But with Crimea and Rustviet in the game, I mean, Sachs can invade Crimea, but if Saxony invades Crimea early and Crimea builds Scout, I mean, Sax really risks weakening themselves substantially. Come on, Polania Engineering with an aggressive board. Does that mean you like Polania Engineering? I hate Polania Engineering. I gotta be honest. I would not want to take it in this game. All right, we got Rustviet Agricultural up to 4. Saxony Industrial still at 2. Crimea Mechanical at 2. Idea is to slow down Crimea while whipping Polania. Yeah, if you can pull off doing 2 at once, it would work out well. Let's stabilize my camera here. We got Rustviet Agricultural up to 5. Crimea Mechanical still lagging at 2. Now at 3 with Crimea Mechanical at 3. Sachs still at 0. And Rustviet Agricultural, of course, up to 5. Yeah, Rust goes next to last. Crimea goes last. That Rust is slow, though. I mean, it depends on if it can find combat with just 2 mechs. Rustviet Agricultural can end in 15. Game might be able to be over before you get out of the base. That's true. Saxony with the right encounters, and depending on how the others play, Saxony ends it in 12 turns. There's not much Rustviet Agricultural can do to stop it. Game's really out of your hand for the first 11 to 13 turns. I mean, I guess you could start moving before your enlists are all done. That's an option. They're the gods. I can't seem to find a nice way to speed up Crimea and Mac, it always goes 15 to 18. 15's pretty good, man. You can do 14. But it's 15's pretty good. And 14's just like blitz speed. I mean, I suppose 13's possible if you get the right encounter. So those of you on small devices, Crimea Mechanical and Russ Viet Agricultural are up to 6 apiece, with Saxony sitting at 0, and no one to bid yet on Polania Engineering. Waiting on Chris to bid. Oh, he ends it. All right. It is ended. Let's get this in game scores. Get the round and the group on it. Round 3, group I. Clean it up a little bit. My camera doesn't want to stay steady today. Okay, he's in a room. We'll spectate in just a minute here. Question here is Industrial Sax and Polania. What about Crimea is the same as Russ? Yeah, let's get these bids back on the screen. Let me just here. Patience is appreciated. All right, bids are on the screen. Game's not quite ready to start yet. All right, chat. Who do you like in this game just based on the bids? We got different players in here, and you may know some of them and may not know the others. But who do we like? Team Slack likes Crimea. I mean, they are low bids. I like Sax Industrial as kind of a dark horse option here. You don't have a lot of time, but if you can end the game quickly, get out on the board, spread around, eliminate the ability for anyone else to go to tier 2, and finish quickly, you've got a shot. Lord of the Gods says Crimea or Saxony, depending on the first encounter for Sax. Good morning, Sax. If they have double objectives, looks good. Yeah, so much of it for Saxony comes down to those objectives. And we're not quite ready yet. They're still grabbing their combos. Yeah, I took Sax once this tournament, and my objectives were not great. I don't like Sax because it just feels like such a gamble in tournament play. You get 2 objectives that are amazing, and you can end the game so quickly, and no one can stop you. You don't get you get 2 objectives you can't do, and suddenly there goes half your faction ability just like that. For me and Russ were at $10 each. I'd feel a bit better about Sax. All right, we are spectating. All right, and we've got Saxony starting it out. All your starting CCs are 2s. Always sucks for Sax. No question about that. The industrial board is so fast. You don't get an enlist off that encounter though, or an upgrade. Yeah. It's going to be pretty expensive to get either one. And then you have to make do with your 4 combat cards and your double move, or take a little bit of time off to get to that triple move or that combat card enlist. Some people like the deploy enlist, keep up with coins, also a super viable option. Saxony here, often people will trade for 2 metal. They can turn around, produce, deploy immediately, get a mech turn 2, and allows them, if they want, if that's a speed mech, to move to the encounter turn 3. But we're about a minute in for Saxony here, thinking about the turn. So we've got on Saxony, got Kaz on Saxony Industrial. Wondering if he's thinking about it or if it's possible he's DC'd. I'm gonna check Discord here. What's going on? What's going on? Kaz is typing in the Discord. Let's see what he says. Yeah, I'm wondering if here if he's having trouble with his game. This is why we do play and go games, right? You can leave at any time, come back at any time. It means if someone disconnects or their game freezes up, it doesn't just completely ruin the game. Okay, he's back. He got desynced, so he had to drop out and come back. But we got the trade for 2 metal. Really common start. Polani Engineering, it's always interesting to me to see how people start this. Lately I've been going for a quick first enlist off that deploy. Try to help the coin situation that you often have with Polani Engineering if you don't go for upgrades. But I'm not necessarily sold on that. So we get a move immediately out of Polani Engineering, trying to fast track their way to that encounter. You guys think Rustviet's going to produce? I bet Rustviet's going to. Thinking about it. Thinking about producing. And they do. Rustviet produces. So a really common start for me and Mechanical is to produce, trade for 2 food, and produce again for their first enlist. A little bit of variance in that, but that's a real common start. Saxony going with the produce into the deploy, deploying the speed mech, presumably going for that encounter the next turn. So Polania here may want to trade for metal, start setting themselves up for that first mech. May want to trade for food or produce, and we do see a produce. Presumably a trade for 2 food is coming next. Set themselves up for that first quick enlist. Got Rustviet with, surprise, surprise, a second produce. Nearly every Rustviet mat combo employs 2 produces at the start. Say nearly every. Innovative often trades twice. beginning. So here we go. This encounter is going to be key for Saxony. What do they get? So, it could go a few ways with this. The $2 to gain a worker in any 2 resources is nice because it speeds up their worker production. But if they do that, it might actually outpace their mech production. So whether that's a great thing is questionable. They are going to spend the 2 popularity to enlist the 1 recruit, which I think is not a bad decision because it does set them up to get combat cards from Crimea and Polania, or take the coin enlist and get a numerous number of coins out of that. But they are going to take that combat card enlist, so they're expecting Crimea and Polania to feed them several combat cards along the way they start. Okay. So number 3 here is one of the better encounter options in the game, and one would think that Polania is going to take that as one option, having to pick between one of these for the other 2. Their coin situation, they're at 5 coins. They're not hurting that bad for coins, so they can go with either one. But what would you do here? 2 resources, you probably take either food or metal, right? You take the food, and it lets you immediately enlist. You take the upgrade on your metal and take 2 metal, and suddenly you're set up to get 2 mechs in 3 turns and move to the factory in 4 turns, which puts you on the factory in, what's that, guys, round 8? I think that's right. A little hard to do that in my head sometimes on the fly. Chat, you can correct me if that's wrong. You feel free. Always interesting to see how Polania players take their resources off encounters and what they intend to do with them. And you could always take an upgrade to oil and take 2 oil as well. Probably not what I would do, but would allow you to upgrade 2 top row actions. They are going to go to the 2 metal and the upgrade to the deploy route. What did they upgrade as their top row action? They upgraded the move. Solid choice there. So here we find out if Rustviet's going 8 workers or 5, and it looks like Rustviet's going to go 8. Crimea presumably producing here, going to enlist probably their combat card enlist and probably grab 2 combat cards for themselves. Going to 5 workers. Feeding Saxony their first combat card off of the enlist. They nabbed off that encounter. All right, Saxony. What are we going to do now? Trade for 2 metal? Start feeding those mechs? No, we're going to go ahead and produce. Probably trade for 2 metal next and produce into our second mech after that. So Polania can trade 2 metal here, get a mech they can produce. Interestingly, they trade a metal and an oil, setting themselves up for a mech. But what are they going to do with the 1 oil? They need 3 for an upgrade. And they deploy their submerged mech over on the farm. Polania may be planning to move to the factory 1 space at a time. Seeing it done. Rustviet here can set themselves up to get all of their enlists off of 1 produce if they decide to trade here for metal and food. And that's what they're going to do. Placing probably the Riverwalk mech on the village, and there it is. Crimea here can trade for 2 metal. That's one option. Another option is to go for some oil, but he's gonna go. I say he. There's everyone in this game is a he. Let me She. I believe Kyra is she is Crimea Mechanical. Okay, so we get the trade for 2 oil out of Saxony. Saxony evidently wanting to get an upgrade, willing to take a couple turns out of the way to pick it up. I get that decision. You know you're in a rushed game though as Saxony. You know you have to end it quickly with these bids. You can't afford to get into a long game with Rustviet Agricultural and Crimea Mechanical. You need this game to end before these other combinations really start racking up their coin and really start spreading out. So Crimea right now can spend one of their cards. They have 2. And go ahead and get a mech on the board. Probably the speed mech. Once they do that, next turn they can choose to spread either these 5 workers out to these 2 spaces, probably putting 3 on the farm and 2 on the mountain. Or if they're concerned about cards or just want to rush the game a little bit faster, they can produce one more time. Get themselves to 8 workers and spread probably 4 and 4. All right, Sax goes ahead and upgrades that deploy and that move action, allowing the next produce to get them to 5 workers and 2 mechs. Solid sequence for them there. They save themselves a trade for metal by doing that. So only really 1 turn deviation for them. Bought themselves back a turn. So Polania electing to go with a 3 worker strat here. Getting their first enlist, applying it to combat cards rather than going for the deploy enlist, which is often a first choice for players because getting that out before the mechs can make such a huge difference in your in-game score. Rustviet going to move to a farm here in all likelihood. The east farm is probably the safest with Saxony on the board. Down here in the bottom, even though they've just got 1 mech. So this would be the dream for a lot of combinations. But does agricultural Rustviet really need it? You can take 3 pop to gain any 3 resources. You can do it. And what would you take? I guess you'd take metal. You can pay the $2, grab 3 resources. Or go ahead and take the 2 popularity to set yourself up for a very likely tier 2 game. If you think you're in for a longer game, number 1 is the way to go for you. If you think you're going to need that mech star and you're not really confident you can end the game just with a speed and a Riverwalk mech, you might want to go for number 2 or number 3, but it's not really an easy decision, Rustviet. At least I don't think it's an easy decision. Going to upgrade the deploy, or the, the bolster and the enlist in all likelihood in a moment. All right, Rustviet is still thinking about this choice. It's not an easy choice. To get the Power Star, which Rustviet Agricultural can do. Yeah, he traded for oil. That's a good point, Lure of the Gods. Rustviet Agricultural likes to trade for oil twice because to get to the Power Star, you need to trade for oil once, upgrade the bolster and the enlist, and then later on trade for oil again so you can get 1 extra power off of this power enlist over here after you've already gotten it. So you could go $2 for any 3 resources and grab a couple oil and something else. And 1 metal because otherwise they are short. Well, you're not short metal for 1 more mech. But you're right that if you grab 2 oil and then a metal, you'll have enough metal for 2 mechs, and you can get to 3 mechs. Because after you do the second upgrade, you're most likely going to apply it to your movement and to your deploy, making the 1 metal you deploy here enough. That being said, if Polania steals it, 1 produce doesn't allow them to get to the speed mech. Yeah, none. That's what I was just about to say. If they, yeah, if Polania steals the metal, they still have it. Yeah, TBJ, they're going to get 1 more upgrade. So they're probably going to apply it to the deploy. So the 1 metal they produce down here is enough for the mech. But look, they did right what you said. That was a good call. I think that was a good way to take this. Not committing themselves at this point to a tier 2 game. Although still keeping it as an option, not going for that number 3 option. All right, Saxony's got underpassed. Probably about to move out of their base here. To get exciting pretty quickly. Let's see, Polania. Polania cannot move this turn. Elects to trade for 2 oil. Okay, so they were thinking ahead with the oil. So the next produce is going to give them enough food for their next move and is going to allow them to get an upgrade. So here we have the 8 food, 2 metal set up for Rustfiat. Polania can take that food and mess Russ up like crazy. Yeah, you lose a turn if Polania steals this 1 metal without that encounter up there. Now you're set up in such a way that you can trade twice and get 2 mechs. Sure, but then if they get the metal before they can get speed before the next movement and reach the encounter directly right. That's a good point. If you, now that you have 2 metal, if you don't want to go for 3 mechs, you can just trade for 2 metal, get the speed, and then that first move, when you use that next move, when you use this oil to get your 16th power, you can move farther and grab this encounter. A very good point. All right, what was the split here? We saw a 2-6 split out of Crimea, which I'll be honest is a bit surprising to me, considering this is the mechanical board. Yeah, but Russ cannot do all as enlist too. Not sure what you mean, none. I mean, he's got 8 food and he upgraded his enlist once. So that's 4 enlists. Yeah, I mean, I would have taken, oh yeah, if Polania steals it. Yeah, I would have taken that food with me. I would have traded it on the village. But what did Saxony or Crimea take? Crimea paid 2 popularity, bringing themselves down to 1 popularity. That's pretty close. What do you guys think about this 6-2 split? I mean, they got bailed out a little bit by the encounter. They're sitting at 4 food. But they're going to have to 3, 6, 9, 12. I don't really see them getting to enough food, even using cards every time with this split. Am I missing something, guys? Saxony already threw down their popularity, cannot take option number 3, doesn't hesitate, takes the 2 power and the 2 combat cards, which, you know, looks pretty good if you're Saxony. What doesn't look great is Polania on the lake and sitting at 6 power. Rustfiat's the one with very little power. But you can't easily reach them. You'd moved a mech up here, your next movement, you could get there. But Rustfiat is going to start enlisting now, so their power is going to accumulate very quickly. Rustfiat probably going with the combat card enlist first, setting themselves up for the maximum number of combat cards as they enlist multiple times. But I'm really befuddled by this split from Crimea. I mean, they only need 9 food, right? If they spin the card each time. But why spin the card each time? You don't need all that metal. Producing far more metal than you need. I mean, they didn't know they were going to get 3 food off the encounter. But what was the thinking there? You're going to have to produce multiple times, right? You just got yourself enough metal for the rest of your max if you spin cards. Monopolize? Could be. That could be it. Going for the power enlist second. Monopolize the market. We'll see. Sax electing to go for enlists here. Rather than going straight to 8 workers and spreading out. Producing food. Bringing out their 3rd mech as Riverwalk. Maybe with their eye on Crimea here. They're all Riverwalks. Really the only... Crimea's really the only faction they can reach right now with Riverwalk. Saxing with the upgraded move and sitting on slightly more power than Crimea is. Crimea does not have Scout out yet. Crimea will have the opportunity to deploy a 3rd mech to this spot if they so choose. Polania, only with 1 mech right now, cannot threaten either this space or this space in 1 turn. Let's see, what would Polania like to see here? I mean, normally as Polania, you might say you want a bottom row action factory card to rush this game as much as possible. TBJ, yes, but if they didn't get the food, they would have been stuck. A bit risky for an objective. I'm with you, TBJ. I'm looking forward to see Crimea prove me wrong, but I'm not so sure about the 6-2 worker split. Really just a hope and a prayer that you get food off that encounter, if that's what the thinking was. You almost wonder, though, if Polania needs something that's going to give them popularity. Because they're sitting right now at 1. And the question I have is, can Polania win this game in Tier 1 with only a 6-coin buffer with the 2 other factions? What factory card is going to help them the most? They're about to get their 2nd enlist, which is nice. They've got a few upgrades. They're set to trade for their mechs outright. So we're probably not going to see a factory card that gives them mechs. Although the fun thing about a factory card that gives you mechs is, or buildings rather, well, you can't do it because you don't have a speed mech. Sometimes you can drop a Riverwalk mech and surprise somebody, or drop one of the mechs you didn't have and reach someplace you couldn't go into the last turn. I didn't say I agree with the play. I just wanted to provide insight on why they made that move. Essentially why they made the play anyway. No, I got you. I didn't think you were advocating that it was necessarily the right move. But yeah, that's a potential reason for it. I am looking forward to see if they have monopolized. You're not going to find out this time, but one clue. No, because you don't act. Okay, Polania taking the 1 combat card for 3 resources. Okay. I really like that card because it can run an entire economy. And with good encounters as Polania, it can be very effective. But I'll be honest, it can make for a slower game. So it kind of makes you wonder what Polania's other choices were. And with the engineering board tending to be lower coin most of the time for Polania anyway, there's I have some question of whether or not you can sustain. Okay, Polania going for the popularity enlist. Machine over muscle. Strategy thus far makes a little bit of sense now. Why they kept themselves to 3 workers. Early lead for Polania, especially with the bids. That he had 1 food already, plus 2 workers. He got 3 food. 1 card gets the first producing list. Move out and get. Maybe so. Got to get 2 mechs to do that though, and expose herself to Saxony early. Do we see card spent here? And we do. Mia going down to 2 cards, I think. So Evil Tim, the Crimea and Rus mats are not bad. Agricultural for Rusviet is probably one of the worst for Rusviet, but it's still Rusviet. Mechanical for Crimea is, I mean, I think some people like industrial, but I think mechanical Crimea is arguably the best non-IFA Crimea mat for its ability to just produce coin and be all around solid. It can go buildings, it can just go enlists and mechs, combats, workers. Just industrial sacks is good. And we see the first combat. Only bringing 1. So far. Wait, does Saxony have another move to go? Saw 1 move. Yeah, 1 more move to go. That makes sense. Let's see who. This really hurts. I guess it's not too bad if you're Polania. You got your factory card, which is really what you wanted. You can use the factory card next turn. Move up to this encounter. Drop some metal or some food on the ground. And keep your turn going. The bad news is Sax is sitting on 8 combat cards. Just pulled a combat off of you. And with their factory card, could turn around and hit you again. With quite a bit of power and quite a few cards. Also, guess you're sitting on 8 cards as well. Sax has to target somebody though, right? Crimea's bunching up all their mechs on 1 space. Saxony also with this mech here puts themselves within reach of Polania's mech. Whoa, look at that. Saxony gets the card that lets them use 1 resource to get 2 power and an extra combat card. So Saxony probably not going to be running out of power or combat cards anytime soon. And if they were thinking they might pursue enlists in this game, they may be rethinking that right now. Rusviet already out of reach. Take Saxony taking easy combats off of. And by Sax sending Polania home, Polania may struggle a little bit to invade this spot. Rusviet's smart to spend this food early, leaving essentially this food as the only one they have on the board. Crimea only has 2 cards. I might try to hit Crimea. That's a good point. Crimea is sitting with 3 units there, but only 2 cards. The thing about Crimea that you've always got to watch is the number of combat cards Crimea has can always be very deceptive. Now this right here sends 4 popularity Polania's way. So suddenly Polania can consider a tier 2 game. Hit Polania over and over. Probably the right call. Probably the right call, because even though Crimea doesn't have Scout right now, so you force them to spend a little power, and then they throw out Scout. Although, with the number of combat cards Saxony has, if they are good, you can survive a little scouting. The thing you're more worried about, I think, is you need to drain one person's power, and you split yourself between 2 factions, you might put yourself in a little bit of trouble. The only thing about abusing Polania repeatedly is Polania might just decide to go on the water, and then you're stuck with no one to fight. Now, Crimea could really ruin Saxony's day right now if they wanted to move out and send these workers home. The reason Crimea probably is not going to do that is because they just have 2 popularity, and I believe they've already taken the popularity bonus off the enlist. So they might be tempted to do it, but then they can't produce anymore if that's what happens. And you need right now, unless you're going to do some upgrades, you need at least 6 food total to get your last 2 enlists. You're okay on metal, but if it was monopolize the market, we're about to see it right now. They can do that and grab pop at the encounter. So bump these 3 workers, grab the encounter. You still just can produce 2 food, get you to 5. Then you have to do an upgrade as well, right? No, you don't have to do an upgrade. You just have to spend... Yeah, you have to get an upgrade or get food off the encounter. Because if you don't get an upgrade, you need 6 food. And if you move out to bump these workers and move to this encounter, you don't have a 3rd move on the board. Your next produce only gets you to 5 food, which is not enough. You then have to get an upgrade, make your enlist 1 cheaper, which you know is not terrible. You get an upgraded move, and then you have enough food. So you could do that. I guess it depends right now how worried you are about Saxony. Saxony right now in the lead with Crimea and Rusviet kind of just marching down predictable, generally predictable path of inevitability. Deploy instead of produce. Crimea deployed last turn. May not be what you meant, but Crimea did deploy last. Crimea thinking about this turn for a while, maybe reasoning out the resources and exactly what they want to do with it. Then move your workers in position to get enough food. Gift to combat stuff. So what you're saying basically is Crimea could bump the workers, grab the pop off the encounter, deploy another mech, and then move again the position workers, then produce, and then they would have enough food. Yeah, it's a good point. You leave a unit all by itself on that village, and you leave a unit all by itself on, well, the encounter village, and you don't have scout out yet. So if the character gets sent home, that hurts badly. Tell you who that helps though is Rusviet. Rusviet would love to see Sachs slow down Crimea and Crimea slow down Sachs. Oh, is this monopolized, guys? Slow this thing down and see if we get an objective. Do we have it? No. It was not monopolize the market. Whatever the thinking, that was not it. Now we got Worker Star for Saxony. Third mech coming out. It is Disarm. No huge surprise there. Polania cannot take their factory card this turn. Polania Engineering is in kind of a bad way right now. I mean, their best hope is to either get some amazing encounters or to produce a lot of workers here. And spread out far enough that one of the higher bids drops below them. Whose turn is it right now? It's Polania. Glad you're enjoying music. The Polania, they need 3 wood for a building, which they don't have. Just going to produce and get out another mech. Probably the speed mech coming right now. But it's around 11 before Polania has gotten their second mech out. Polania's game seeming to move a little bit slowly. But now, Russ has to be thinking about making their second mech post haste. Because next turn, Polania has that factory card available to them, and they can take this metal. Russ not too worried about it, though. They just aren't thinking about it, or they're just willing to part with that metal to get their enlists out a little bit quicker. Sachs already at 3 stars. Got a mech star. We've got a worker star. I missed the 4th mech. Yeah, they already had 3 here. A mech star, worker star, and 1 combat. So Sachs has 2 easy objectives. This game could be over quickly. Because Polania has left themselves vulnerable up here. Sachs has the regular move available, and they can hit them with up to 3 units. Crimea choosing to deploy, setting themselves up for the last produce into enlist. Sachs is too fast for Russ Ag if they can fight someone. It's true, and Polania is so far giving them combats. Yeah, all 3 of these units can hit Polania if Saxony is so inclined. But instead, they want to slow down the Rusviet menace. Oh, is that a factory card move right there? Saxony looking like they want to deny Rusviet the power star. I mean, this would be a pretty classic throw low move just to hope you drain some power. But Rusviet's got to be tempted to just play with cards. But you're in a good position as Saxony. You don't have to throw a lot here. What's the strategy here? Is the strategy just to slow down Russ? Oh my gosh, it worked. He counted on Russ to throw low to keep his power star. and it worked. Threw just enough to pull it off. Saxony's in the driver's seat right now. I mean, look at this. They're 18 coins ahead. 24 over Rusviet and Crimea with the bid. What do you guys think? Harvest advantage? You have to take it back. Yeah, but the question is, does Russ give up his power star doing that? Or does he try to go low on Saxony again and take a gamble? I don't think his cards are good. Yeah, get power star and lose game. I don't think his cards are good. Let's see what Polani's getting up here. 2 food and a popularity. Polani inching a little closer to those in lists. Polani's game just moving way too slowly for Sax right now compared to Sax. Polania does move out of Saxony's range. So Saxony isn't going to be able to triple up on them. The only person they can actually hit this next turn is Crimea, who now has Scout. I'm not really sure what Polania does at this point. The game has moved too slowly. The game's going to be over quickly. For better or for worse, in all likelihood. I think they just... I think you take the resources, right? You get into tier 2. And you hope those... Oh, they dismissed the encounter. They didn't take the resources. That's every coin matters because the game's about to end play. Right there is what that is. Yeah, I mean, Russ has to attack back. I don't think there's any question about that. The question is, how much do they throw? You already threw 2 cards last time, and you saved the power star. Saved your power to try to get that power star. You throw 2 cards again, and they're not great cards. Saxony might call your bluff. Again. Saxony has 9 cards. They've got it sitting on another 5. They can afford to call a bluff without spending too much. But if you give Saxony one more combat, Saxony hasn't turned in an objective yet. Russ is so done. Yeah. It is going to be difficult to recover as Rusviet at this point. I mean, you're tied with Crimea right now, but you have basically no opportunity to spread. I mean, right now, as Rusviet, you're really hoping Crimea gets tunnel blocked. Yeah, I mean, that's right, Matt. That's right. And I mean, you've got it right. If they manage to bluff their way through this combat, spend 2 cards and win, they can pick that oil up, spend it, get the power star and the combat star. Which right now, I don't know that you're going to be able to beat Saxony. Let's call you Guerra. Will do. I mean, Rusviet's playing for second right now, aren't they? You just can't count on this game going long enough. Guerra. Sorry, man. I'm trying. Oh. You gotta attack if you're... One thing you can do, it's a little bit meta, but you can attack Saxony and then sit there and watch Saxony's timer and see how long they think about it. And if Saxony makes a snap decision, they're probably going low. If that timer stops after 2 or 3 seconds, you might be able to just throw cards and win your way through the combat and pick up that power star. If, oh my goodness. Rustviet choosing the pacifist route here, not going to get their oil back. I'm kind of wondering if oh, I spoke too soon. They must have made the decision to throw power here then. You're not going to try to win this with one combat card. Yeah. Combat for Rust, but no power star. See what that score is looking like. 31. I mean, it's not as bad as it could be, but you've got a bit of 6, which is not that high. You need 14 more to overcome. Foundations of the Empire out of Rustviet. Something they actually could have turned in a while ago, but just chose to now. Rustviet within 5. See. Saxony not willing to try to call a bluff that time, even with Rustviet sending 1 unit. Maybe could have gotten away with something there as Russ. Rustviet at 4 stars though. However, worker star, objective star already in the bag. Thing is, you need speed and you need township to get to the factory in a reasonable amount of time. For me, has got to be thinking this is about to be game here. They want that endless star, but if they spend 1 more turn producing, they're really not sure what's going to happen here. Rustviet is still sitting on 9 power, so Saxony can't... What am I talking about? Saxony has the factory card that gives them 2 power. But they used it last turn, so they can't this turn. The only fight Saxony can actually initiate with is Crimea, who's sitting on Scout, sitting on 11 power, has 3 units there. Saxony can only attack them with 2 units. So it's going to be difficult for Saxony to pick up combat this turn. But what you have to be worried about is Saxony spreading and picking up 2 objectives. They're on 2 mountains right now. They're on a forest. They left, when they were moving, they left 2 workers on this forest. Maybe just for the simple reason that it made sense to leave them somewhere to spread them out more easily later. Oh my gosh. Look at that. 13 metal on 1 space. Crimea goes for the enlist star. No, none. Sax just used the factory card. So. You can spread a little bit if you're Saxony, but you cannot hit Russ again. Russ sitting on the same number of stars as you. If Russ had 1 more star, you could suicide Russ to end the game. But I don't think we're there yet. Okay. That would be 3 mountains. Is this game, guys? This looks like it might be 3 mountains and 3 tundras. Oh, there's mountain number 4, so maybe not. Wait, there's the tundra. Is this game? 13 turns? Or 3 tunnels? 3 mountains, 3 tunnels? 3 mountains, 3 tundras? 3 tundras, 3 tunnels? Nope. Just a spread move. Maybe setting up an objective, but needing one more. Definitely factory card next turn. Ooh. Polania going for the factory, wanting to keep Saxony from ending it. Thing is, Saxony can afford to lose the factory here if Rusvia doesn't pick up some significant points this turn. Saxony does not need the factory to win this game. Currently, they are up on Rusviet by 15-21 with the bid. That's a lot of ground to make up, and Rusviet does not have the mechs to spread, does not have the mechs to bump workers, does not have the mechs to get to the factory. It's going to be tough for Rusviet. And Polania, honestly, with that 0 bid, the same as Saxony, is just too far back. It can't catch Saxony at this point. So Crimea, the one who has the best shot, probably right now, to at least play for second. This is a 2v2 battle between Polania and Saxony. If I had to guess, Polania willing to throw some significant power here. Moving off the lake, not wanting Saxony to turn around. Set up a combat on that village. The dilemma, though, if you throw too much as Polania, Sax comes right back, hits you, perhaps turns in, but they did. Oh my gosh. Saxony tries to call the bluff. Polania wins 16-16. I don't know about that, guys. I don't know about that. Sax just has the single move now and no combat to end it. I mean, maybe they were halfway setting up for 2 objectives and they can get 2 objectives and end it this turn. Saxony can surprise us, just how the faction is. But I don't know. I'm not sure you had to hold the factory here. Yeah, you needed more power. You can pick 2 power up off the factory card. But you can't hit Russ. Russ sitting on 9 power. You can't hit Crimea with the factory card. 10 power and 5 cards. And Polania's got plenty of cards sitting with 2 units on the factory. I mean, hopefully, if you're Saxony right now, you don't need another combat. What do you do if you're Russ? Maybe get your speed mech out. I mean, I don't think you can count on having time with Township. Lonnie up to 34 now in a solid second place with that tier 2. Still behind Saxony by 9 coins. Yeah, none. If you throw 10 as Sax, you would have lost. But you could have saved your power. 8 would have been solid, 9 would have been solid. Polania went all out. Nice thing about Polania going all out is with 2 units and sending those home for sending those home as Saxony, that buys them a turn. They know they can't get hit. I mean, if you feel like being mean, you could steal these resources, right? Saxony, but I don't know what you'd really do with them. For me, a tunnel blocked. Hopefully for Saxony, he didn't sit on 3 Tundras, because there's a good chance he loses it right here. For me, has 0 popularity, doesn't really care about bumping the worker, I would say. A lot of points wrapped up in that medal, though, for Crimea. 6 out of your 33. Crimea now ahead in the tiebreaker on Rusviet, behind both Polania and Sachs. I mean, it's time to move if you're Crimea, right? Got to. Or I guess you could just bolster and get your mech star and hope you get one more turn. Really wish I knew what Saxony's objectives are. Crimea is going to make us wait a little bit to find out. Crimea needed more medals, in one person's opinion. Right? Resources are points, right? Get a lot of resources. Got 1,000 points one game doing that. No lie. This spread confused me a little bit. Why not drop the worker on the mountain and move out to one of these tunnels? Position yourself. You can feel pretty safe from Saxony right now, right? Maybe grab this encounter, bump another Saxony worker. Saxony can disarm you. Well, we were talking about that earlier, Vector. We thought maybe Crimea had monopolized the market, but they didn't. Or at least they did, they've chosen to hold on to it. I mean, I suppose they could have chosen to hold on to it, but actually, as Crimea, I mean, you can win a 1v1 with Sachs. Sachs just has the factory card movement. Okay, guys. Here's the thing now. Here's what just happened. Oh, man. Saxony had saved some. They could hit Crimea right here and try to steal that metal by going down through this spot here. But they can't get there with multiple units without going through this tunnel. I'll leave one worker here with this mech, it looks like. They've got 3 Tundras. They can get them back. What are we going to do? Hope Polania has bad cards. Force Polania to spin some cards, maybe. Setting themselves up for the 2v2. Yes. Zero power versus 0 power. Forcing Polania to throw down 2 cards gets them to 5. Sachs can hit with 3 units next turn. Presumably they could win that fight on the factory. What do you do if you're Polania right now? You're actually tied with Saxony. Saxony gave you the star. You don't have a great way to end it. Can you force Sachs to end it? No, I don't think so. You can't afford to give Sachs the stars, because they'll beat you. Polania already with 2 combat stars. But not much else in the way of stars. In fact, what do they have? The objective? I think they had Was it machine over muscle, guys? Yeah, I think it was machine over muscle. That's a lot of resources right there with Saxony coming up on a triple move. Oh my goodness, and Polania moves to the mountain. Sax can hit that with 2 units and take all these resources with the 3rd. I mean, those are all the resources Polania has saved too. That right there is a huge blow to Polania's points. I mean, I wrote Polania off here. And here they are in the lead by 6 points, but Sax can knock 9 of those points off the board next turn. If that's right. Polania doing a regular move there. Is that right? No, it's a factory card move. So no bottom row action to spin these resources. If Sax has an objective that they can turn in, we're going to see the game end. Stockpile. Night, stockpile, but stockpile for the winter, but Sax, but they all have to be on 1 space, and Polania has already turned in an objective. Rusvia is starting to spread out, bumping Saxony workers. Saxony can still win this because of the bid, but their window may be closing here. I count 8 resources, none. And Polania has already turned in their objective. I mean, if Sax had stockpile, they could take this food over there. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 there. You need 9. You'd have to bring this food over if Sax has stockpile. Sax still within striking distance here because he's only 10 down. He'd take away... Just taking these resources is enough to catch back up with Polania. Getting just one more space, forget the stars, is enough. So Sax can pick up an objective here, hit Polania, and take these resources. That's probably game. Can they do it? Do they have the objectives for it? They have 3 mountains. This is probably GG, or 3 tundras. Sax has a 5. They don't need to hit Polania with multiple units. Polania is sitting at 0 power. A great ending with stockpile Sax. This food is still here, so we're not going to see it. All have to be on the same space. Could be, are we looking at diversify production? Is that 3 moves? That's 3 moves. I think it's diversify, guys, but is it enough? It is. We see diversify here. This is game. Take the resources anyway, cuz 3 tunnels. 3 tunnels. GG, Sax. Good game. I thought it was diversified too, but it was 3 tunnels. All right, so what are we looking at here? We are looking at Saxony pulling off the first place. We have Polania holding on to a very solid second despite a very shaky start. Rusviet in 3rd and Crimea in 4th. So guys, thanks for tuning in. That was a fun game to watch. Despite a bid we thought was kind of low on Saxony, it turned out really well. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. We'll be streaming more tournament games. So we'll see you again soon.